So, yeah, knowledge should make it. And then her cardiologist should contact the hospital and say what she has to say. I made the call over the top first. So, yeah, right, yeah, so the ophthalmologist should say, right, the ophthalmologist is okay with her leaving, and then the cardiologist should contact the hospital and say that she's under her care and, it was. So I don't know anybody, I don't know doctors.
Shabbos. I don't think you heard me, but okay. Parshas Naso. That's what kind is. Are you sure I'm on? Doesn't look like anyone's there. Okay, I got it. I gotta wait. Okay, I gotta wait. Okay, good. Okay, so it says after the Naso and Reuven, the Torah puts together two interesting pieces. One is about Gezel HaGel, and one is by stealing Tevis Hanoyah. So the interesting part, the first part is, which we had in Vayikra, in Parshas, we had it in Parshas Vayikra, here, but it repeats it again here. The thing is, it says like Naso, Isha Kiyasu Mikochate Sa'odam Limo Ma'al Ba'Hashem, to be Mo'al Ba'Hashem. In other words, they chepit the Reuven Shalom. It's not that they chepit something of the Reuven Shalom, they chepit the Reuven Shalom. What is that thing that they did that chepits the Reuven Shalom? Is that they stole money from a gal, and therefore the gal has no children, and they want to now do tshuva, so they have to return it with a chaimish and a korban, and that goes to the kohen, the money in the korban. But again, the terminology, they were mo'al b'Hashem. When a person steals, he's mo'al b'Hashem, more than any other aveira, and there is simply that he's mo'al b'Hashem, meaning he's claiming God can't take care of him, or God doesn't take care of him, or he can take what God doesn't want to give him. However you want to translate why he's stealing, it's all the same thing. He's telling you that God is incapable of something, and that is considered the me'ilah b'Hashem. And the same thing we saw by the Ma'aser Osham, where in Parshas Vayikra, where you have the Osham. So the Osham for me'ilah itself is just considered me'ilah. The guy took something, he has to bring a korban, and that's it. Doesn't say anything was more b'Hashem, just took hegdish. Over here, when you get to Gezel, it says more b'Hashem. And that's the reason, because it's the biggest kefir shayach in a way. And that's something could be why in Yeshamnu, which even though we talk about attitudes more than anything else, when you say Yeshamnu, the only Aveira there is Gezel, or anything that has shaykhs to Gezel, it's there. Because those things, we have somehow that feeling still we're going to get away with something. We're gonna get something for nothing. that whole attitude. That pshat is, nobody saw me. I don't have to pay for it. Mazik or something like that. You have many things where people are even gezel without even realizing what they're doing, and it's only because of that Yetzer Hara that they think that they're not going to have it unless they steal, unless they do this finagling, this kind of crooked business. That's the only way they're going to have it, and that's by saying that God can't give it to them, or that they can take something that God doesn't want to give them. And if God wants to give it to them, that means they're successful, then they would have done it honestly, they would have gotten it also. And if God doesn't want to give it to you, so this guy's not going to be a successful guy enough either. He's going to drop it, he's going to get caught, whatever it is there, so it doesn't make a difference, and then God doesn't want him to have it. But if he wants him to have it, he would have had it legally. So therefore, all these shtick, all the things that a person feels he's doing, Parshas, because that's the only way I can make it, that's really unnecessary.
Don't most people steal because they see easy money? They see an easy way to get stuff. They don't think about this.
That's what I'm saying. They don't think. That's the trouble. I mean, they don't realize that what they're doing. To them it's whatever. I mean, it's all for money, so I took it. So what's your kasha? Why do you call me a kaifa for? But if the guy understands that the pshat is, I think I can, that God is not giving it to me, so I got to take it. So that's we can feel it. So if you realize that, you wouldn't do it. So that's why it's called Mo'amah B'Hashem. It also happens to be in the same parshas we said that someone stealing Tevis Hanoya from a person. What's a Tevis Hanoya? A guy has Truma and Maisa. He can give it to anyone he wants to give it to. He doesn't have to give it to someone you want. And the kohen comes along and says, Yomi, I want the Truma. I'm sorry. I have a nephew that wants Truma. I have a son-in-law that's a kohen. I intend to give it to them. I mean, why should I give it to you? Right? And that's the Tevis Hanoy that I have. I talk for kohen and those things, and then ganze shaylas about the chazokah and these things. We're not getting involved in that. But as far as the union of the Tevis Hanoy, a person has a right to give to whoever he wants to. Then goes to tzedakah, then goes to everything else. And you can't have a taina of a shivas atzal. Would never have a taina. They said we should go to this gevir. He's giving, never gave us. We'll probably get for him. He said, the guy gives. What's your problem? You have a shad he doesn't give enough. That's a different story. But if you hold that he gives, you just want to take the money that he gives somewhere else, that's not a big yichus. What are you going to take the money from somebody else for? So therefore, he would not go for something like that. But if you have a guy who has more money, okay, it's a different story. Then we're going to go also, like anybody else, about to take someone else's is for why. And it also teaches us the concept of what we own in this world. What do we really own? We had this in the Parshas in Bahar, talking about Shemitah and so on. I think we just mentioned it then, I don't remember for sure. But there's in Bab Mitzvah, you have two places, Sayan Yud Aleph and Sayan Daf Yud. On Yud Aleph we learn the Indian of Shikha, that we learn Oimid B'tzat Tzadeu, that you kind of Oimid B'tzat Tzadeu from the door of Shikha. Meaning you have an open field, and a lame deer runs into it, let's say, and if somebody obviously can catch, if you can't catch it, you didn't got it. So they can say, it's mine, and I'm going to work on getting it, how I'm going to catch it, or whatever it is, that's my business. Otherwise, it was open territories. No, they didn't have to stay here. Something that actually lasts in my sod, and it's I have it fenced in, I have it protected, like my house. So that's mine. You can't take it. But that is, if I have no das to be koine, I don't expect to be koine, especially if an animal traveling by, definitely not going to stop my property. If he stops my property, I'm not going to say I'm kind of because he runs right out of my property. That's no yichus. You have a motcha that even says a din, if someone loses, let's say, a quarter in my house, and somebody else finds it, is it mine or his? And the din is it's his, according to the motcha. Why? Because I never had das to be kind of the quarter. You don't expect people to lose money in your house. So therefore you have no das for your kinyan. So therefore you weren't kind of. On the other hand, the other guy picked it up, he did, so he had it. Okay. That basically all ownership is really by rights of the Reuven Shalom. So as I'm saying, so he learned Shik from Tzad, all the mice in the mission about by Yom Tzad today, by Shikha. There were workers that were tying the bundles together, and they forgot one. And the owner did not forget it. Obviously, he's standing right over there, and he said, "Hey, you gotta go back for that." You know, but the shaila is they already passed it. Does it be mine? Do I have to give it to the poor people or not? So it says, since you were there, you were kind of. It's your thing because you really didn't forget about it. So you're kind of. There's the kasha. What do you need a kinyan for? It's his field, right? You go in his field. So if he didn't forget about it, it's not shikha. So you see that's what the din is. The din is I have only first rights to take from this field. If I didn't take it, so then it goes to the poor people. They get the second rights. And shaila is, so now, if I didn't take it because my workers missed it, if I wouldn't have been there, so then it's forgotten. But by the fact that I'm there, I still have a right to be kind of it, because there was a mistake there forgetting it. So I can be kind of it still, but I have to be kind of it. It's not mine automatically. I have to be kind of it. That's the. You have on that Daf Yud Aleph. On Daf Yud you have Machlekes. Papa says that you have that Oni has a dollar amis in Ligabi the din of Peya besod Chaverei. Now the din of dollar amis means it's my rishus. It's not applicable in an actual rishus harabim because that's too crowded. But in what do you call it, Siddur rishus harabim, there's a concept of dollar amis. That something is, I see something there, it's in my rishus, I'm in kainet with my rishus. So they want to know if it would work for Peya b'shus chaverei. How could it work in Peya b'shus chaverei? The other guy's field, right? But since right now it's not the other guy's field, the thing is now made for the aniyim, so they get what's left on the field, the Peya, the shikha, the leket, they get all the rest of the stuff. So therefore, they can be kind of dollar amis because right now it's their fields. It's like traditional salam. So to see that the Torah didn't just give us the stuff, it's cheshbeinus of how we get it. Same thing when we sell things, and with a shemitah you can only sell it for a certain price. When you have to redeem it for a certain price. You have also the din of bikurim. So I think it's a Sifri that says, Kisovi Allah sholkech nesel chanachel v'yarishta v'yashavta bo. So they say on it, I want you to do a mitzvah that through this you're going to be zoicha to inherit it. What is the mitzvah? The mitzvah is bikurim. Why is bikurim the mitzvah? What do you give in bikurim? You give the first fruits, then you bring it to the Beis Hamikdash, and then you give it to the Kohen. Do the first fruits mean anything to anybody except the owner? The truth is, the fruits probably don't even taste so good, because the first crop, we know when you buy a peach, a peach, a plum, whatever it is from the first crop, somehow it just didn't make it yet. And you got to wait till the middle of the season, that's when you're really going to enjoy it. So why am I giving shikha for the first? Because the first has value, so it's called a sentimental value. I don't know what value actually it has. I've never had the pleasure of meeting such a thing. But you go into a store and you see on the wall, usually tape some dollar bills, or 20, depending on the type of store. And sometimes just $1. This is the first dollar I made. This is the first 20 I made, or something like that. So therefore, it's a $20 bill. That's all it is, right? But it's the first one I made, so that means something to me. So this is the first fruit that my field produced. So it means something to me, and that's the fruit you give away. That's what you give, meaning that you're saying to the Rebbeinu Shalom, we don't consider it our fields. It's really yours. You're letting us be here. You're letting us enjoy it. That's the thing, and that's how we really have to think about all the nechosim we have. That it's really on loan from the Rebbeinu Shalom. Goes when we have it, enjoy it. Give the Maisa for it. What do you think? Though give more than that. In the case where it's more, I don't know if we discussed it last time, but the Indian of how do you know how much money I have to give you? Find the Gemara that says about Akdim and Ben Gurion, they lost all his money. And why was it? Because he didn't give enough tzedakah. The Gemara says, Kaish, of course he gave tzedakah, he gave a lot of it. He said, but l'shim gam l'shichna. The camel's weight goes according, the weight you put on a camel goes according to its size. Obviously, Maisa Chaimish wasn't enough for him. He had to give a lot more. How much should he give? What's the shear? I don't know if this can be an exact number, but you can work this way. There's a Beniyane novice, I think it's 10 on the Mishnah of 10 Le Mishaloi, that he says that if a melech would give you $1,000, and he asks you to give 100 to 9 people and you can keep one, wouldn't you be very happy about that? Of course. Okay, so that's who wants the tiniest. My job was to give out the 900 and keep 100. Where is there such halach of keeping 100? The halach is the other way. I give out with 10% and I keep 90 for myself. You want to keep 80 for yourself. But where do you get the union of giving away 90? So obviously we're talking about such a case. What's this case mean? I think for Hasogiv money, it's break it down into numbers that we understand. $1 million is $1,000 a day, and that we understand. $1,000 we understand. $1,000 a day for 3 years, about 3 years, right? Okay, it's $1 million. Nice, because no one spends $1,000 a day, or the not, except they're buying furniture and all that, and then you don't do it every day. So meanwhile, you're saving all this money that you have. So it's good money, right? What's $1 billion? We have billionaires in the world also. It's $1,000 a day for 3,000 years. Who needs money for 3,000 years? So you'll say, well, I need for my descendants. Okay, which descendants do you need it for? So this says the Avas of Labanim is till the grandchildren. Okay, so you have your title for your children, your grandchildren. Maybe the great-grandchildren you see, okay, so Teichet Efshi, you can leave them something, right? The great-greats already, well, you probably need one more daughter because you laid this. And stuff like they say, I heard that Yoshev was Takizoicha to see 6 generations. And when they told him about the 6th one, when the bris and stuff, kosher that means the relationship is that far that you're now kosher ladies, even though he's a descendant of mine. But they don't have that emotion that you have by your children and your grandchildren. You have, it's Shem made a big party for Avram when he came victorious after Gdol Omer. Kedolem is a grandson of his, or I mean, great, whatever it is there, because he's the Melech Elam. Elam is his son, and he's the Melech Elam. So he's, what do you call it? And he makes a party for this grandson against this grandson. I mean, like, obviously, there's no personal emotion in there anymore. Now we're talking about what's right or wrong. So I'm not leaving it for them. That's a silly thing. That's not the thing. So why did God give you this money? So we said that enough money, at least with the cheshbon, if it's called normal. Obviously, it's given to you as a gizbel to give out to the people. It's not made for you. It's not for your use because you don't need it. And therefore, it's your job to go out and give it out to the ones who need it. And it's a big responsibility. And I always wondered myself, if I won there was a guy that actually won a lot over $1 billion, I think it was, or something like that. So close to it, or more than that. Last year, 2 years ago, a guy actually won it. One guy. What would you do? Would I be able to take off at least 90% and give it away? I'm used to giving $100, $200 maybe. But, how are you going to give away $100 million, $200 million, $300 million? It's sums I can't even understand. And once Geshe once said that, why God created checks. It's a very convenient thing. It's very nice. Why did God create it? It says when you go to a Gevir, put stock it, and he wrote down a check for 100. He said, make it another zero. Make it another zero. Right? So he'll think one way, the other way, and then he puts in the zero. Right? Okay. Try it if he would give you cash. He gave you $100 bill and say, well, maybe you give me another 9. It's a joke. Nothing going to happen. But in a check, it's very easy. And also for business, they made the credit cards for this. It's not, simply, you don't know what you're spending. I'll give you a marshal. And you used to get a paycheck. You didn't get a paycheck, you got a pay envelope. Everything was in cash. So you got your envelope, and as you're spending it, it's getting less and less. Go right in front of your eyes. Think of this. I never see how much I make. The check goes deposited right away. I never feel that cash in my fingers. I don't see how much I spend because I always write out checks. So Memele, there's times, and to do with a credit card is for sure. Just easy, buy it, just take it. You know how much you're working for? You just bought a couch, a car. You bought a car. Paid $35,000 for it. Right? Do you realize how long you worked to pay for that car? Oh, it doesn't register. I worked 6 months for that car. You're crazy. I don't want to work for 6 months for that car. Who needs a car? Right? But you don't reach it because it's very easy. You just put it down and you're not malgish what you have to do. You have to count out $35,000. Believe me, you wouldn't spend it so fast. Okay, so that's about ownership. The union of Shlit. So it's one is Ruach Tumeh, one is Ruach Taira. So how does Shaykh Ruach Taira? He feels not jealous of his wife, but is choshed his wife. Or he's not really choshed at the moment. He's choshed for the possibility there could be. And therefore he says, I don't want you to be miyached with this guy. Now, why? Something bugged him, and what he called it, it was a valid thing. Not because necessarily she's doing anything wrong. The thing is, the situation can cause a situation where something may go wrong. And you never know what the other guy's thinking. So therefore, there's always a problem. Now, in a way, it stops people from coming to do an Avera. That's what, in other words, by putting a stop to something, you don't come to the Avera, so that's good enough. We're not interested in catching people do Averas. We want to make sure they don't do Averas, so therefore it's Ruach Torah. Anyway, it says after that comes the din of Nazir. Rashi bring around the Gemara that says that, why is Lama Nismach Parshas Nazir to the Parsha of Soite? Because if a guy sees a Soite Bilkil Kula, he should be Yazaratz Min Hayayin. The way we normally understand it to mean, it's I see what drunkenness could happen, cause a person to get rid of his, what do you call it? Inhibitions, to get rid of his inhibitions, and mainly he can fall. So therefore, become a nazir, and then don't drink wine. The trouble with a nazir is, it's not only the wine that's also, it's grapes are also also. Raisins are also. On the other hand, the good bourbon and a good even scotch is mutter. Like how come they're mutter? Brandy will be also, what the scotch and bourbon should be mutter. So if it's a point of keeping away from drunkenness, I mean, that's not seeming to do the job. So obviously that's not the reason. Shiur said so why but the Gemara says so. Right? The Gemara means to say that you see, every person, we're not choishelim for doing Averos. He has a chesed kashrus. How could you have chesed kashrus? There's Averos all over the place. People have Yetzer Haras. How you have a chesed kashrus? Right? You're being unrealistic. Saying he has a chesed kashrus because the fact that the Torah said it's also, we trust everybody that their keches hanefesh is going to protect them from having to do an avera. We're not talking about people who are not religious. We're not talking about people who really don't care about the avera. Rather, don't have a problem. We're talking about an el chiyid. An el chiyid is going to have a shaila. About it, he may have to fight with his Yetzer Hara, but his Yetzer Hara is generally going to win. I mean, his Rotzer HaTov is going to win. Sometimes you lose. Okay? If you lose, that means I have to protect myself more. You understand this better in the din of tshuva. In the mitzvah of tshuva, there are 3 parts the Rambam counts. You have to have chawat alova, mikabel alosid, and you have to say vidu. So Shiva, yes, he says, I don't remember his answer. I'm going to give you a different answer. Maybe it's the same. I have no idea. So he asked the question, Meilech chawat alova. That's obvious. Vidui, also, I think when you express yourself bepeh, you say it out loud, you feel that what you've done is how wrong it is. You just think about it like you try to cover it up that way. But if you actually can say it out loud, I am a ganef, I am this, then it has an effect on you. But Kabbalah's Allah said, even a regular Jew who didn't steal, who didn't do an avera, he also has to have Kabbalah Allah said. He said that he has to have commitment, he's not going to do an avera later. So why is that a chelik of tshuva? Just says, do tshuva yet of now you're a regular Jew, and then whatever it is. So I find it, it means you need to have a siyog. What you've seen is your normal your nekeches hanefesh that we're supposed to be able to control yourself was not enough. You weren't able to control yourself. So now you're mechuyev to put in certain safeguards that to keep you safe. So that's a din of a siyog. So now that's it. One of these safeguards Rosh Shiur learned would be Nazirus. I make myself holy. A Nazir is a holy person. He keeps himself Peirush more. He has it in Nemson like a Kohen Gadol. He can't be Mitamal Mess all the way like a Kohen Gadol. Not like a Kohen, like a Kohen Gadol. Except for Mess Mitzvah, Mamish can't do anything. He can't do anything. So, how does that work? By being a Porush, a bigger Porush, he has the Keches and Nefesh now to overcome the Yitzhar. I'm not the regular guy. I have added holiness in me, and that helps me to protect myself from falling in Aveira. So that's the end of Yasatz Min Hayayim. Now there's an interesting halacha that the Naso does when he becomes Tamei and he's coming to bring the korbanos. He has to shave off all his hair, and he takes the hair and he throws it under the pot where they're cooking, into the fire, the pot that they're cooking the chatas of the Naso. A strange thing, but that's what it says to do. So there's a mice in the Gemara in Dorim of Abomin Adorim. That the only Nazir or Nazir Tomei, Machlekes, that Shimon Tzadik ate from. Now, he always thought that people who became Nazirim were generally for control. They need control of something. They made a Nezel. Now, there are Rishonim that say in the Ferish, it's brought down in other places, that it's not such a big mile to be to make a neder that I'm going to, even though it's called a nedres rizim, that I'm neder. Let's say I don't get up to davening, right? He's going to make a neder. I'm going to get up to davening, right? So why is he making this neder? Because he's not doing it. He figures the fact that I don't want to be able to neder, I'm going to do it. So it's strange. What God told you to do was get up for davening. That you don't listen to. But if you tell yourself to get up for davening, that you listen to. That's a little bit of a chutzpah, not to say nothing. So therefore, to make the Nedarim is not a very good. Obviously, if it's going to help me, that's the most important part. But the question is, why is it helping me? And that it shouldn't be really helping me. But so the same thing goes with if you go into Nazirus or anything else that you're going. I'm doing it to protect myself from doing something wrong, either for the Isha or whatever it is. That should be the biggest mitzvah. Why didn't he eat from anyone else? I'm sure there must have been people that control themselves with wine, saw a sight, so therefore they're making the nezah. So it's all the Shem Shemayim. So what's your problem of eating it? The shaila is he held that guy, first of all, the shaila by being elongated this man because he didn't expect the tumah to happen. So now instead of 30 days, he now has, let's see, for 60 days. He became tumah in the last days. He has 60 days. They didn't expect that to happen, so he has charotet now on his neder and stuff like that. So therefore, he didn't want to eat. It was not so much the Shem Shemayim that they're going to, until there came this guy, Brahman Adorim. It was this guy, he came, who happened to be an extremely handsome person, and he saw how his hair grew, what do you call it? And he asked him, why did you become a Nazi? So he said he was a shepherd for his father, and he took the sheep to the water, wherever they drink from, and he saw his reflection in the mirror, in the water. And he said, and the Yetzer Hara took hold of him. And he said, Yetzer Hara, I'm going to take you, I think he's talking to the hair, not the Yetzer Hara. I'm going to mekadesh you l'Shem Shemayim, and I'm going to become a Naso. Now, how do you mekadesh? If his purpose was to protect himself, because his hair is so beautiful, to protect himself from becoming Eiver and Aveira, so therefore he's going to shave it off in 30 days. You got 30 days to still chayte, it's still beautiful. Why don't you just take a scissor and cut off your hair? right? So obviously that was not what he meant. He meant that you're so beautiful that you're something that's of beauty. And of course you can do other things, but God made a beautiful thing. I'm going to give you to God. What can you give here to God? The only maisi you have is to burn, put it under the korban that you have, that you bring to a Naso. So he became a Naso. Not because he was afraid he was going to be Evan Avera, but because he was able to use that here, which was the beautiful thing that God gave him, not for taiva, but for something, for a little bit of a mitzvah type of an angle. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. The next parsha that is Birkas Gehanim. Now, Birkas Gehanim is the third bracha is something very strange. We say, Yisha Hashem Elecha, or Yitzhak Hashem Panav Elecha, he should show favoritism to you. How could God show favoritism? He says the Reuven Hashem doesn't show favoritism. When you saw upon him, doesn't show upon him, like doesn't take sheikhad, like upon him, doesn't show favoritism. He's emes. So how can he show favoritism to you? So what's the bracha? Yisai Hashem Panav Elecha. So obviously the Reuven Hashem told him to give this bracha. So obviously there's a possibility that the Reuven Hashem will show favoritism. So the Malachi Ashoris is the Reuven Hashem. You said you don't give favoritism, and how do you hear it says Yisai Hashem Panav Elecha? So the Reuven Hashem answered him, how should I not? I said a mitzvah that when do you have to show gratitude to me for giving you the food and everything else when you feel sufficiently, when you feel satisfied because you ate enough. Right? And what do? They come and they bench, even though you don't need a kazayas or kibeya, and therefore memela, I have to show them gratitude too. I mean, my favoritism too, because they're willing to do this gratitude to me. The first kashi you have, it's a bracha l'vatala. So what are you telling me that it's a mila? It's a bracha l'vatala. Oh, but the Rabbanan. So why did the Rabbanan make such a law? The thing there. And even according to Rabbanan, if let's say I need a half a kazayas, would I be able to bench? No, be a bracha l'vatala. So why is it when you need v'chalta sveita v'rachta, you have to first be full, and I'm not full, so what makes you have to do it? What's the mile in it? So I wanted to tie it like this. That's talking about where a person benches when he has no gratitude for what he has. But the Rabbanan made a law, you have to bench. So I bench. So the kasha is why the Rabbanan makes such a law. But that's my thing. What happens really if a person has true gratitude for what you gave him? Even though it's a kazayas only, a kibay only. But this will keep him alive for another day, another week, whatever, it'll keep him alive until he maybe can find more. And he has that gratitude. Thank you for that, for giving me this chance. Or these days that I'm going to be alive yet be more because of it. Even though I'm not full, I'm still hungry. You haven't satisfied me. But l'maaseh, I feel gratitude to you, that I'm chayiv to bench me the raisa. The thing is, the Torah doesn't expect gratitude until you're full. But if you have gratitude before, you must say thank you. That's a menschlichkeit. If someone gives you something and you're thankful for it, you say thank you. I'm not thankful for it, okay, maybe not. But if I'm thankful for it, I say thank you. So here also you have to say. So once there is such a person or people in Klal Yisrael that can do that, the Rabbanan came along and said, we'll make a din that everyone has to do it. And even though right now they don't feel gratitude, hopefully by continuing to do this, they will feel gratitude even when they only eat a kazayas or kibbeh. That's the time of the Rabbanan.
If you eat shaloi b'chtei achilas pras,
If I eat
shaloi b'chtei achilas pras, you don't eat it, but you're
full,
full at the end. You don't need it.
you don't have to bench, but
You're allowed to bench. Are you allowed to bench?
Approximately kibbeh no.
You ate it altogether. You
Yeah,
ate a
I
lot
understand,
more.
but I didn't eat from bread, no.
You didn't eat it today achilas pras, but over the course of an hour you ate today sevilla, but you didn't eat any
That
of
could be.
the
That could be. That may be. Shabbos mitzvah, if you mean. That could be. From Klurkai, I don't have on that, but that could be, because the truth is, when you sit down to eat, right? Let's say a person on a diet eats one slice of bread during the course of the meal. When does he eat it? That's about a kazayas. Maybe it's a kibbeh. When is he going to eat it? So usually he takes a piece with this bite, and takes a piece with this bite, and then so once it's the list the whole meal. So is he going to bench or not? That's where you have your shaila. It's a really practical shaila, a realistic shaila, and so on. So some people eat a kazayas right away. As soon as they wash, there's definitely no chiv to do that. What you could do is just take te'ima and save your, let's say, your bread for the main course. Don't save it for a sandwich or something. And okay, so that I'll eat b'techach pras, even though I ate for a lot of other things in the meal. But but ultimately I'm going to eat kazayas techach pras. But taki, what happens if I don't? But pashtas, we try to make careful to make them techach pras.
If the idea is the gratitude, so why would you be allowed?
I understand, but obviously it is that's the whole the kalvachema that is that it's a need of gratitude. The shaila is you're going to say he ate all the other things. Either first of all, it's taki you get hungry quicker. So it takes bread to make you really have gratitude that you're full for the next meal. Anything less than that won't do it. Or maybe not, then no. You can upset your stomach too. This wasn't bread somehow doesn't upset your stomach. If you eat only vegetables, you only eat you can probably upset your stomach and stuff like that. So maybe those are the reasons. I can't answer it. I don't know. Anyway, they came on when the day they put up the Mishkan, which is Rosh Chodesh Nisan. The Nesiim, who when they gave the money originally by the donations to the Mishkan, did not participate in the Mishkan except for the Matzah Shekel, the Adorim, if they gave for that. But like this, they didn't, even though they gave a blank check to the Gizba and told them whatever money you need, you just come back to us and we will supply that need. Klal Yisrael never needed it. I mean, the Mishkan committee never needed it, and therefore they lost out on their being able to participate in the Mishkan. Even though in the normal case they're wonderful people, they're everything else, but to become, Div Lev, that they didn't become. And therefore they took out the Yud from the extra Yud in the Siyim when it's talking about in Parshas Pikudei. And then they brought the dime, they brought all the stones for the Chayshin, they brought the Miluyim, they brought all the Ketevas and all the Shemen I mean, you're talking about an awful lot of stuff, in the millions probably. And so, like, you know, they give more than anybody else, and yet they're not considered a div. And a guy who participated every day, he came and he said, "What are you building today?" "We're building the oven today." "Okay, you're building the oven, that means X amount of gold, X amount of what he called you need. So my chelik is, let's say, a quarter. Here it is." So he came out, we made a cheshbon once about for 30 dinlam, silver dinlam, you probably were considered a div. I mean, there was one gold dinner plus silver for 5 silver dinars. I can't answer you like with the value in that, I don't know. But I assume it was, everybody had it. They didn't have it that way, they have it in value. They gave the schera that was in place of it. They gave the atzeshitim, they gave the oires, they gave whatever they gave things of value which was equal to maybe whatever they needed to give. Something about 30 dinlam, figure it out. It doesn't come out to more than that. You divide the silver, how much gold they had to give, and how much silver didn't give anymore. And all the other things, approximately sure, it's more than 30 is probably over the top. And they're considered the div because they cared, they were involved, they wanted to be involved all the time. Whatever is necessary, that's when we're there. On the other hand, the other guys were not there. When you finish and you're short, come to us, we'll give you. That's not good enough. So they came and they wanted to make up for this. They're going to bring korbanos. It can't be the korbanos. Doesn't make sense. How does that make up for this? But they gave first 12 oxen and 6 wagons. That made it possible to travel like this. It's obvious they're going to need something to transport the beams. How are they going to carry the crusher? Okay, you get a couple of them, and they'll be in the middle there, and they'll carry it. It could be. I mean, maybe it could have been done that way. I don't know. Maybe you have enough levim for it. It could be. The oven, or maybe the bench will make a nest, like by the oven. The oven weighed about 10,000 pounds, and you have 4 guys trying to lift it up, and the sticks that are holding it up should have busted. And all this was nisim. The sockets of the beams of the things that you carry it with are made out of pure gold. Pure gold stretches, it doesn't, and breaks in the end. So how could it possibly lift up this box? No matter how light the box is, it's still going to break through the gold and stuff like that, pure gold. And yet, obviously, it worked. So it must have been nisim that happened. So maybe for this also it would have been nisim. I can't answer you. But there it says meferish is nisim. The almost noisov. But it didn't say that about the table. It doesn't say that about the other clay mishkan. I'm saying to maybe they would have had to carry it that way. I don't know. But normally there's something missing yet. And the Nesiim came and fulfilled that part that was missing. They gave you the ability to transport the kroshim, the adonim, all the covers, everything else. And the klei mishkan, that they carried by hand. So for that, they put back the yud. So Magnosin is the tshuva, and they got back their yud for it. What did they do here? Not good, you're right, they made it easier. You still didn't participate in the Mishkan. So the Taina is like this, what they said. The Mishkan, what's its purpose? Its purpose for Ruchni is to go out to Klal Yisrael. So, I think there. We guarantee, by the fact that we gave made these things, that the Torah will travel wherever we go. In all of the places, wherever place we were in history, we would go this many times, chased from one country to another country. We had immediately shul and yeshivas were immediately set up. after the Nazis and the Holocaust, there were yeshivas set up in the DP camps, and what do you call over there, immediately right after the war. You had we guarantee Klal Yisrael will have Torah. That's what they did. Once they did that, then whatever you did in the actual Mishkan itself, okay, you understand? Now you guaranteed it. You understood what you did wrong, you made sure that this is going to happen. It's an interesting thing. We had this actually happen to us. There was a Rav, I'm not going to mention it, I'm not interested in embarrassing anybody. I don't know if it's embarrassing or not. Maybe it's a Rav Choshev, but I'll tell you the story anyway. A town in the states around the United States, the Northeast, had a Frum Rav, and one probably you go in issue of it. You wrote a Sefer on Parshas in the 1920s, and he went and he set up a fund that anyone that wants to come from his community to yeshiva, this fund will pay tuition. Now, obviously, the fund never developed to big much, but they had enough, like $750 for the year. They were able to give kids like that because that's what the fund paid. That was the cheshbon. Okay. This is fitting with the kasha, the medrash. The medrash, why it says here that the wagon was two Nesiim partners in a wagon, and each one brought one ox. He said, why don't they just make it 6 guys bring 2 oxen each, 6 guys bring the wagons, and you got the same amount. Why are you doing this such a strange? 2 guys are partners. Why are you gonna need partners for? So he answered, the Medrash answers that the Nesiim were afraid that if they wouldn't do in both parts, and let's say they had a wagon, and their wagon would break, and therefore their part is finished. Okay, so then the Shevet will give a new one. Yeah, but who said the Shevet is going to be smart enough to give a new one? Maybe they want that time, they don't want to give a new one. How do I make sure that they're going to have it in the whole time? So he split the possibility of being left out between the oxen and the wagons. And that's what this guy did. He made a fund. The shul obviously did not produce such people in the future. Didn't, whatever it is, like most out-of-town places, disappeared and the stuff. But this fund remained. And there was this Orthodox shul, and it did have children that wanted to go to yeshiva, and I think were the only 2, but they wanted to go to yeshiva, and the fund paid for them to go to yeshiva. So then that was the Rav's foresight in the 20s. I think it was similar to this. So that's what they accomplished. We now have the Ian of the actual Korbanos. And it's the longest metal shraba that exists. If you take a look at our pages, there's not even any Rashi on half of it, on most of it. It's the same repetition, the Korban is the same one over and over and over again, right? And it's even made into a Korban Tzibur. Shomer ben Amihud, who was the Nasi of Ephraim, he came out on Yom HaShvi. Nasi in Ephraim was Shabbos. You know, where they started Sunday, it happened to be. He came out on Shabbos. It's a Korban Yochid. How's the Deicha Shabbos? So the Beinshel made it, or the Doyer made it. I have no idea how it worked. That since all the Korbanos were the same, and they were done for this, it became a Korban Tzibur. And therefore it was Deicha Shabbos. Okay? Korban Tzibur, Deicha Shabbos, fine. The Medrash brings down all different reasons why each Shevet brought what they brought, and it just happened to come out to be the same thing. But there were different reasons. They were not the same reason. And it says on the Shevet Shimon, which will come in the Geya to us later, by Midbar, that the Shevet Shimon gave Keneged HaMikdash. Why is the Shevet Shimon giving Keneged HaMikdash? Their job is not the Mikdash. That's Levi's job. Why you give him Keneged HaMikdash? Oh, Levi's not bringing any korbanos. And what's that got to do with you? So it seems from here, I'll explain later the actions of Zimri, what it was Chayiv Misa and what he did. The thing that this was really, they felt that this really belonged to us. And the same thing like Adoniyo felt the Malchus should be his. He was the fourth son of David's. So Amnon, what's his name, killed? Avshalom killed. Kilov is not interested. He's sitting and learning. Avshalom was killed by Yoav. And I'm the fourth son. So I'm the king. Simple as that. Right? Same thing goes over here. Reuven is not interested anymore. We took it away from him, and they're not interested in competing for it. They're doing tshuva. Right? I'm number 2. Why does he go to number 4? Or he's fighting for the Malchus. For the Kahuna. Why should he go to number 3? He should stop at number 2. I should get it, but they gave it to number 3. So you see that answer of Zimri to Cosby. Cosby, when she came, the mother says she told him, he asked her, he wanted to be Mizana with her. She told him, my father told me either with the king or the second to him, and you're not the king. He said, yeah, but I'm second Lebetan, and he's only 3rd Lebetan. So what is he telling? Well, but he's still nobody. So when you didn't answer the question was, you're not the king. So he answered that I should be the king. It's called the pretender to the throne. He's the pretender to the throne. It really should be mine. And hopefully in the time it will become mine. And with that, Mike he made a revolution to try to make it his. Unfortunately, all died in Magefa. But that was the chet of Zimri's. The truth is, I don't remember all the different other ones that were there, but there's a lot of other stuff brought in, a lot of chidushim about anything. If you have time and you like learning a medrash, it's really worth it. I think you'll enjoy it. That's the thing. It's really a lot enlightens you out. A lot of drushes, a lot of things that each one is zeicher to, each one what it stands for, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Now the end, the last pasuk is what's negated. It said, "V'vay Moshe lo yamoy ledaber itay, vayishma es hakel medaber elo me'arak haperish." So Rashi on the pasuk of, my thing with it. Okay, so I'll quickly read it. Medaber. K'moy misdaber. Now, K'voidei Shomayla, we're talking about the cover of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Loi Maken, we say the word, it happens by itself, Medaber b'nei l'bein atzmai, he spoke to himself, didn't speak to Moshe Rabbeinu. U'Moshe Shemaya Me'ela, and Moshe was standing there, so he heard. But God did not speak to Moshe, he spoke to himself. Lahalocha on this thing has nothing to do from the Raif and the Pasuk, but to understand this much, maybe to understand it. The Rosh Yeshiva Paskin that by hearing aid, the problem is not on the wearer, the problem is on the talker, because when he talks, the hearing aid vibrates or raises the electrical parts in that. So it's really the talker that's making the problem. He said that the issue is only if he talks to the person wearing it. But if he's not talking to the person wearing it, then it's okay. What means talking to the person wearing it? If I whisper in its ear. If I come into the room, even though the only person is the other person, and he speaks loud enough that the other people in the room listening could have heard it, that's called not speaking to the person in its mutter. I can't answer you the svaros and the timing behind it, but I just said, but you see here the same concept, that it's not called, even I'm talking to you, I'm talking loud enough for other people to hear, that's not called talking to you. So now I understand the pasuk really, I mean not really a pasuk, but again a medrash in Parshas Vayera, like on Sorah. It says that the Rebbeinu Shalom wanted to talk to Sorah so much that he waited until the last, until, where he can bawl her out, and said, no, loiki tzochakt, which is like a musa to her, but just because he wanted to be able to speak to her. What does that mean? Because the Rebbeinu Shalom doesn't talk to any Navi. So somehow Sorah was special, that Ben Shalom wanted to talk to Sorah specifically. And that's why it seems to come out. Not they just wanted to talk and it didn't pass them to talk to her because she's a woman. And I think this whole thing don't make sense. Ben Shalom's not a man, so what difference does it make? Man or woman. She was a Neviah. She was what he called, reached the Madrege. So what's your purpose? She was even a bigger Neviah than Avram was. So why do you think you want to talk to us to that? So I think it's because it is. God doesn't talk to people. God talks to himself. People hear. And that's what we said, like an antenna. Now what depends what Madrig and Nevu you have? That depends if you hear. So if you're all going to have Hedgehog Hanavim can give you Hasoy if you do something wrong, what do you call it? If you take the Nevu that was given for someone else to say, whatever it says in the Parshas of Navi. That there's two from the Chayiv Misa, that there's three from the Chayiv Misa. The Chayiv Misa ones are, you have to have Hasoy, how you be Chayiv Misa, so Echav Hanavim can give him Hasoy because they all hear. They all hear. So why is he talking and not the rest of them? Because he's the one that was mitzvah to be talk. Nobody else was mitzvah to talk, so they have no right to talk. So this is the taich of a Navi. So the Rebbeinu wanted to talk to her. Now, I can give you a little idea why, I think. It's a very funny pasuk. She happens to be, she was Haran's daughter, which makes her Terach's granddaughter, right? So we should talk about, now take a look in the last psukim in Noach. It says like this. Vayikach Terach es Avram benoi, ve'Shlit ben Haran ben benoi, ve'ei Sorai kalosoi, Eishes Avram benoi, vayetzu, when he says his granddaughter. It's Bas benoi. No, she's Chalos. She's my daughter-in-law. She's the wife of Avram. I have no other shaykhs with her. And before, when it says her name before, supposedly, Bas Horon Abi Milkov Abi Yisko, she's not called Sorah, she's called Yisko. Right? She says, who's Yisko? Yisko is Sorah. But never is the Torah Meyachas Sorah to Terach. Avram is Terach's son. Sorah has no shaykhs to Terach. Why? I don't know. I mean, but obviously there was something special about Sorah that the Torah didn't, that's how big it's a tkoni she was. And if that's the case, the Ben Shtaka wanted to talk to her as a Navi, different than any other, even different than Moshe Rabbeinu. That he wanted to have that special talk to this Neviah. And it happens to be a Neviah. It would have been a Navi, it would have been a man Navi. But the thing, and that's what the pasuk is talking about. And so over here it says, because we see that he didn't talk to any Navi. Anyway, have a good Shabbos. Good Be well.